Welcome,
Fabulous.
everybody. Happy to have you here.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to see you here. Please remember, if you are a person who really likes having the captions, you can go to where it says captions and you can select show captions. If you do not see a sign that says captions, show, or hide, go ahead and look in those three dots that say more, and that will give you the option. If you find captions distracting, you can also turn them off. Sharla, I'm going to go ahead and pin you and I so that we can get started. We have loads of people coming in, which is very exciting. And I am so excited to introduce our guests in just a moment. I'm also going to go ahead and hit the mute all button. So our guests, you will need to unmute yourselves when the time comes for you to talk. And I will also pin you when we introduce you. So, welcome to the Writer's Bridge. Is Substack our next big platform? It feels like everyone's getting on Substack, but is it right for you? And if you're enjoying Substack, how can it better fuel your writing process and build your audience? Now, I've been exploring Substack myself, doing short essays, and my friend and colleague Rebecca Morrison has seen her notes going viral. As part of the Craft Talks webinar series that Sharla and I co host, we've got a very experienced, prolific, and respected Substacker, Lindsey DeLoach Jones, who is going to be teaching a full webinar in about 2 weeks. But we have got her here early to share her guidance on who Substack is good for and why, how much time it takes, and the best ways to use Substack notes to build your author platform. But first, hey, Sharla, what is coming up with Craft Talks webinars? Sharla, you're going to have to unmute yourself because I hit the mute all button for everybody.
Oh dear, that was the smartest I've ever sounded, and it was not recorded. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to have you all here. I wanted to let you know that on Thursday we have Power Your Prose, which is craft sentences with rhythm and resonance. It's with Heather Sellers. It's $25. It's at 3 p.m. And again, it's on Thursday, which is not our usual Wednesday. And we also have a webinar with Allison. It's writing the synopsis, solve your plot, and sell your book. And it's 2 hours, and it's going to include generative time. It's also, is it going to include live editing, Allison?
It is. I'm going to teach people how to write a synopsis, and then we're going to edit some of them and see how they are doing.
Yeah, and that's still an early bird. That's a special webinar, so it's $25 instead of 15 early bird. But if you want to do that, I would suggest signing up soon. And then we have a webinar. Everyone's on Substack. Should you be? It's with Lindsey DeLoach Jones, who's our guest today, and that's also $15 early bird right now. And I'll put all those links for you in the chat. Allison, what do you have coming up?
Well, I am right now in London, scouting locations for the upcoming Literary London tour, and I am preparing for retreats in Tuscany that Rebecca Morrison will also be teaching at, and so will Dinty W. Moore, and Monterey, California, and both of those are coming up in October. Love to see some of you there. I also want to invite all of you. Will you let us know where are you coming in from and what are your experiences with Substack so far? Yes, Sarah, synopsis applies to both memoir and fiction. Let us know in the chat. Go ahead and put in the chat, where are you coming in from? And do you have any Substack experience? Have you been on it already? Are you confused by it? Are you excited by it? Is your experience with Substack? And as we go through our class today, please do put your questions in the chat. Sharla and I will use the question mark icon to note those. So please don't use the question mark icon because that's how we track your questions and find them. We need to introduce our guests. Hey, Sharla, will you introduce our amazing guests?
Yes. Rebecca Morrison is a freelance writer whose works appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, NBC News, Newsweek Today, and HuffPost, among others. Her debut novel, The Blue Dress, based on her childhood as an Iranian immigrant trying to fit into her family's expectations of beauty in American homeland, is coming out March 24th, 2026. Yay! And Lindsey DeLoach Jones is a writer living in Greenville, South Carolina. She often finds herself inside the tensions between seemingly opposed forces, the spiritual and the practical, the mysterious and the mundane, the mother, and the artist. Lindsey's essays have appeared in HuffPost Parenting, Split Lip, Under the Gum Tree, and Motherwell. She is the recipient of the tell me, Lindsey, how do you say that? Nonfiction prize.
Vanderman.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It's just when sometimes words are hard. An essay nominated in Pigeon Pages was recently a finalist for the Best of the Web. She has been writing on Substack at Between Two Things since 2021. Welcome, both of you. So happy to have you here.
Yay. So glad you're here. Jazz hands. So will you start by telling us why you each first started on Substack? Lindsey, you've been there for 5 years now. Why did you start doing Substack? Why are you still there?
Okay, so I started, I was doing Instagram like everybody, trying to build a platform, but also feeling like there was such a disconnect between my writing and Instagram, which is obviously a visual medium. And so I talked to somebody in PR, I can't remember who it was, but they said, when I look up your name, all I can find are your essays in literary magazines, a little bit, obscure everywhere, all over the place, but like, where is a place where all of your writing lives? And so at that point, all I was doing was like long captions on Instagram. And she was sort of encouraging me, you need a place for more stuff to live. And so I did some research and started on Substack for that reason. I wanted a place kind of like an archive of all my stuff that was a little less formal than stuff that had been published. And I wanted to get practice at what I was doing. So just constantly trying to write new stuff and come up with new ideas. And then, of course, I was trying to get to know my audience and engage with them. And later, and we'll talk about this, but Substack has changed a ton since I got there. Now it's a place where you can really meet a lot of other writers. It wasn't that as much at the beginning, but it is now. So that's also a great perk.
Oh, I love that. And we're going to ask you a great deal more about that. Hey, Rebecca, what got you into Substack and how is it going?
Thank you for asking. I am falling in love with Substack. I have to tell you, I have been so disheartened after the demise of Twitter, and I tried to stay on there. I bounced around. I did Instagram for a while. I still love Instagram for writer stuff. I am all about writers, publishers, editors, anyone that's writing words. I love them. I'm in love. And I tried with Facebook, and that's been great for private groups, but I couldn't find another place that felt as community-like as Twitter. And everybody, I started hearing this buzz about Substack, and a couple months ago, I took my newsletter to Substack, which I would totally recommend if you do nothing else. 100% that's my recommendation, 100% take your newsletter to Substack. If you don't do anything else, it just gives you more eyeballs and a great community. But a couple months ago, I went on and started posting whatever I was posting on Facebook in my groups or in my private groups. I would just drop it into Substack to see kind of engagement, and the engagement was wonderful. And I started to see a community and a growth of my newsletter that was very organic, and I didn't have to do much. So I thought, okay, let's test this out.
So we are all exhausted with learning a seemingly endless list of new social media platforms. What's been easy about learning to use Substack? Is it pretty much a plug and play, or does it take a while to understand the interface? Rebecca, let's start with you.
Great question. Yes, it's actually so much more user-friendly than I thought, because I had an Excel sheet. That's how I was sending out my newsletters, literally cut and paste 50 at a time into emails. And I just took that and inputted it into Substack. The thing that's interesting, if you want to do that for your newsletter, and it's very user-friendly, is that the newsletter doesn't allow for a lot of formatting. It gives you very few options, which in the end, it turns out is a freedom, because you end up kind of getting used to those couple of things, and then you just press a button and it's there. The rest of it, to be honest, I don't think is that intuitive, like notes and chats and stuff. So for months and months, I was like, that's too complicated. I can't do it. And then I started dipping my toe into notes, which is the same thing. Honest, it's just the same thing as Twitter, but the algorithm's different. I had a chance to watch a private webinar with one of the executives. I think he was COO of Substack, and their algorithm is different than the other social media platforms. They don't punish for links. They don't punish for certain things that Meta does and Twitter does.
And by punish, we mean that on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, your post will deliberately be shown to fewer people if you include a link. It's why there's a whole spate of Facebook comments where somebody posts about an event or something and then says more info below. Sorry, Rebecca, go ahead.
Yes, that's exactly right. And then it rewards you for things that I think are pretty cool. What the executive said is they really try to take your notes, which are like Twitter posts or Facebook posts, and figure out if like what you're saying would be attractive to subscribers of your newsletter and try to show it to them, because their goal is to increase your paid subscribers, but they just subscribers generally free, and they're hoping that eventually it'd be paid. So it's a great system. I don't do paid subscribers. I don't put the buttons in there. I'm not there at all yet. But I liked their algorithm ideas. The other thing he said is they love videos. Now, if you are on Substack at all,
Rebecca, I love what you have to say, and you are going super far afield. So I'm going to redirect us and let Lindsey ask the question as well.
Good.
Is it pretty much plug and play, or does it take a while to understand the interface?
I think that depends very much on how you use it. So Substack has, and they add new stuff every day. Literally, they are just constantly adding new features. You can try to keep up with that, or you can just say, I'm going to send a newsletter. It's going to be like writing an email, and then I'm going to send it to free subscribers. That's kind of the basic entry-level way to use it. If you want to start doing video, if you want to start using chat, notes, you can record your stuff so that you have like an audio version of your post. There's all these different features. If you're brand new, I would stay away from most of that. You can do like live videos with other Substackers. So it can be very easy if you just want to get in there and send, a text post, and then you can kind of learn as you go.
And I want to just like briefly diverge here, because we are getting a lot of comments in the chat about how do I get paid subscribers? How often do I have to get paid subscribers? How often do I have to post for paid subscribers? Are either one of you doing paid subscriptions?
I just started paid subscribers for the first time in June after, 4 years of having a Substack. I really did it because I had come up with a curriculum that I was excited about and I wanted to share. Like, I would not turn on paid subscribers just to turn it on. But I think once you have something that is valuable and that you want to share, the paid subscribers creates a community where when people comment, other people are not getting those posts and they cannot read those comments. So it's a private community. And so I wanted to be able to have people opt into that private community. It's $5 a month. It's not, a ton, and they can kind of opt out whenever they want to, but I wanted them to be able to write there, not have the feeling that the whole internet was reading what they were saying.
That's really interesting. And this is something that I heard about way back when we first started with blogs and newsletters, which is many people I see going into Substack with the idea of, I'm going to turn on paid subscriptions and this is going to become my side hustle and I'm going to make lots of money. And I say this with great love in my heart. The vast majority of us, we don't have the kind of time and energy it takes to make content that is worth people paying for. And our content is not necessarily of wide enough interest for a reasonable number of people to pay for it. I think that for about 95% of writers, particularly people who don't, as you do, Lindsey, have spent years building content and having a curriculum, most of us, we are far better served by having 5 more emails on our list than we are by having $5 more a month. Would you comment on that?
I totally agree with that. I think the only hesitation that I had as I had been there a long time was that There's a little bit of a debate over whether Substack prioritizes newsletters that have paid subscribers in their algorithm and how they're showing it to people. So they have like leaderboards, and you can't be on the leaderboard unless you have paid subscribers. You're not going to get there just with free subscribers. So there are some, when you get to a certain point, and again, I also felt like the value was there because I have 150 posts already there, essays that you can go read. So if you pay today, you get my whole archive. So once you've been doing it for a long time, it makes more sense. But if you have 3 posts and you're asking people to pay, it might not make sense. But whether or not Substack does that, some people say it does not. Some people say it does. We can't know for sure. But
Not till they spill the secrets.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is what I would say. I didn't know that because mine goes to the leaderboard is because a couple of people have just voluntarily subscribed with money. And I appreciate those people. But what I would say is, and I think Sarah Bodden has talked about this and interviewed people about this, is you can start off slow with giving most of your writing for free, and then allowing for some special things. Oh, maybe an interview, a webinar, something special, and saying, oh, if you want to do that, my subscribers, and people do comments for, so having people subscribe to actually say something, comment. Then even if you have a couple of subscribers, I think they will show your Substack in the leaderboard.
So back to our carefully ordered progression of introducing our audience to Substack. Lindsey, what are notes? Why are notes?
Okay, so notes, the easiest way to understand it is Substack's Twitter or X. So inside of Substack, there is a social media network called Notes. It is completely different from your newsletter, but they do sort of like, if you click on my profile, you can see my notes and my Substack. But when I'm engaging in notes, no one who is on my Substack list is actually getting those unless they follow me in the notes area and they're reading notes. So my Substack posts go out as an email to my subscribers, and then my notes are like little shorter, there is no character limit, but people tend to treat it very much like Twitter. Little shorter things, sometimes with a photo, and that's kind of where people engage with one another. It used to be that the only way to find out about other Substacks was recommendations, which was when, I said on my Substack, I recommend these 20 other Substacks. Now, Notes is the way that you can restack other people's posts and share other people's work and share your own work.
Oh, Rebecca, you had some notes go viral, didn't you? And what did that look like? And
Yeah.
why do you think you went viral?
I know, it was very surprising. What I did was I was looking around for different content that I usually do on Facebook, and I still use Twitter a little bit and Instagram. And I tried a bunch of different things, some memes that I like that really resonate with me, and then just posts about my daily mania. And the 2 notes that went viral got over 100,000 views, were just memes about what it means to be a human being, those kind of like, nobody's watching, just do what you want, things that really resonated with me. The thing is, that's not really, I didn't write that. I just posted a meme, but it really was very meaningful to me. But that going viral meant so many people looked me up, and so they followed me. So I would recommend try a bunch of different things. Post a meme you love. Talk about the weather being hot as Satan's armpit. Do whatever you feel like you were doing on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you were actually communicating with your readers, and see what kind of resonates with people. And then in terms of viral pieces, it doesn't have to be like your heart and soul, anything that kind of captures people's attention will bring them to your page, which is what we want readers to connect with us.
And just a clarifying question, since we're on the topic, can you put videos on notes?
Yes,
Yeah.
I just did it yesterday. Also, I would say this was very confusing for me when I started. You can have followers and you can have subscribers. Think of notes and followers like Twitter. You had followers on Twitter and notes are just posts. That's separate. And then you have newsletter, which are subscribers and an email list, let's just say. Your subscribers get your emails, get the posts of your newsletters. So they're two different things. You can post your newsletter just like you would on Twitter into notes, because it's just like Twitters and followers. So I have followers, which honestly I don't even understand that, but I have followers, and then I have subscribers. And what I care about is subscribers, so that, you know, I can, when I write, I can go directly into somebody's inbox.
So one of the things that's attracting me to Substack as a new user, I used to write short essays on Instagram. I still do it occasionally when I moved, and I like writing something that is actual flash nonfiction. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has a point. I often write about specific characters. Instagram feels like it might be the next short essays platform, but then I see people like Heather Cox Richardson, who writes about history and politics, doing these like 3,000 word, thoughtfully researched pieces, and they feel like they're long form essays from like The Atlantic. What should we actually be writing, and what does well? What's fun to do? And are those the same thing? Lindsey?
Yeah, I think for me, it's evolved a lot, because when I was sending out a newsletter to, 100 people who all knew me personally, I would spend an hour, maybe 2 hours, just like whatever was on my mind, and I would send it out. And as your list grows and as you have paid subscribers, the pressure definitely ratchets up. And there's a lot more people on Substack, and people subscribe to a lot of Substacks. So I feel very, very probably overly conscious of what people are getting in their inbox. And I do not hit that send to subscribers to their inbox unless I've spent a good bit of time on it. And I think that just, again, like when you first start, you can be really playful about it. And I think that's really fun, and you can learn, and you talk to your audience. And so you engage with them and you kind of figure out what works. But then as you go and you've started to have a better sense of your audience, I now kind of feel like I know what people are expecting from me, and I want it to be pretty good quality. I also think there's so many writers on there now. Like I read something the other day that was similar to something I had written, and I got that awful feeling of like, this is similar to something I have written, but they did it better. I mean, I just had to flat out admit to myself that like they put more time into it, they had researched it more. And so I think when I'm putting it out there now at this stage, I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I really need to try to make it as good as I can make it, because otherwise, the thing that could go get spread around, you want to be proud of it. So people do start restacking it and all that. And I don't know. I always probably put too much pressure on myself, but I would say if you're new and you're just getting started, you really can do whatever.
Can you just really briefly define what restacking means again?
Yeah. So if I'm reading somebody else's Substack post and I like a little quote from it or something, I can highlight that and restack it. And it will just take that little excerpt out of their post and put it into notes. Or I can restack it with a note, which just means, I'm restacking their quote, but I'm also commenting on it. Or I can just restack a whole post, like just go read this. But I think that's a little bit less effective, because people don't generally just click a link to go read a long post that they don't know anything about.
Right.
So I try, as I'm reading other people's stuff, I try to like find something I really like and just restack a little portion of it.
That's like another way of literary citizenship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same exact, I mean, more or less, they have a little more functionality. It's really the same as all the other social medias where you can share. It's just a sharing function.
But I use a new word, Rebecca.
I know. Note, post, share, stack. I mean, honestly, it's just so funny because it has really most of the same elements.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say one quick thing. Somebody said, asked a really great question in the thing about, I had written a brevity post saying, I'm never going to read your Substack. And it was about how we are, as writers, overwhelmed with lots of stuff to read, but we still want to support our writer friends. And the question was, do I still feel that way? And what I would say to that, if anyone is curious about that, is that I do have a softer spot for Substack the more I'm on it. And I really try to support people in different ways by liking their notes, by restacking, things like that. But I still can't read everybody's, I mean, not even close, not even 5% of everybody's newsletters. But I think that's the same for all of us. We want to support each other, but I subscribe to a lot, and I just, I like a lot of people's stuff.
So, okay, getting down to the practicality, how frequently do you have to check in on your Substack for it to be effective for like your author platform? Is it like, do you wake up, do you check Substack, then have coffee? Like, is there a slower paced platform? I mean, how frequently do you have to be on it?
You want to take it, Rebecca, first?
Happy to take it. Yeah. I'm on social media every day. Hello, everyone. Please follow me. I'm on every day. I check it in the morning. And what I try to do is absolutely check Substack. I'm treating Substack as part of my social media family. So if I say something heartfelt to my group on Facebook, I try to do it on, I just copy and paste it. And I know a lot of people do that. And then I engage with people as much as I can. But it's like a couple of hours a day. I know that sounds crazy, but I have a book coming out. So mama's gotta, get out there and connect with people.
Yeah, I want to pipe in here just because my answer is not opposite, but it's pretty different. I came to Substack because Instagram made me feel like I was going to have a panic attack, and I just can't handle the pace of social media. It's not good for my mental health. And so for me, Substack, and I'm also an introvert, like I don't know, but I'm guessing, Rebecca, you might be an extrovert, but I just get overwhelmed. So for me, Substack felt like a quieter place where I could check in when I wanted to. Now, could I have grown a whole lot faster if I was on there all the time? No question in my mind. I could have grown faster, but I had to figure out a sustainable type of social media that worked for me. And Substack can be that, and you do not have to be on it all the time. I think if I forced myself to be on it all the time, I would burn out. I would not be able to even I would just leave. So for me, it's kind of like slow and steady. And that's worked out really great.
And I think this ties into Pat's question in the chat. Pat says that their issue with Substack and similar platforms is that time can vanish quickly with reading, leaving too little time for creating. And this is something that way back when Ashley and I first started the Writer's Bridge, my previous co-host, we told people all the time, set a timer. Don't scroll mindlessly because this is not entertainment. This is a way for you to connect with other people in the writing community and connect with your readers. So you set your timer for 15 minutes. If you catch yourself mindlessly scrolling, you redirect and you focus on, okay, today I am going to say 3 helpful things. I am going to comment on 2 people, and I am going to ask a question of 2 more people. And you tick it off like it's a list until it becomes a routine. I built 20,000 subscribers on Twitter before I got off Twitter. I've got 5,000 people on Facebook if they ever give me my account back. But I didn't get it all at once. It was being on these platforms for 5 or 10 or 15 years, doing a little bit every single day, tiny bites, tiny steps, because it does suck up your time if you're not careful. I wanted to ask you both, so every social media network is infested with Nazis, except Blue Sky, which is infested with the left-wing thought police, and Tumblr, which is fanfic, fetish, and furries. Now, are either of you concerned with ethical issues regarding who is on Substack? There are people who get paid by Substack to post there. Do you care about who the platform is subsidizing? Lindsey, will you start us off?
I care. I definitely care. I think it's an interesting conversation to have on Substack in a way, because I think the people are actually, Hamish McKenzie and the other Substack folks are actually pretty responsive. Like sometimes they'll even read these conversations that people are having around who is being platformed, and they'll enter into it and say like, here's why we made this choice or whatever. One thing that really is on my mind right now, well, two quick stories. One is that Doyle Melton, she's Glennon Doyle, got onto Substack in March, I think, and was like bullied off. I'm sure some of y'all saw this. I didn't feel like she was really bullied off, but so many people reacted so strongly to her being there. And this was kind of happening in notes like, hey, she's going to take all my people. And why are the big superstars here and all this, that she left. And so that started an interesting conversation sort of in the wake of her leaving, that I think has brought up some really fruitful, interesting points. And then right now, something that's happening is kind of like Twitter. There's like little dramas. Right now, something that's happening is that an essay that has gone viral was plagiarized, and others of that person's essays have clearly used Chat GPT and AI. And so there's a big conversation happening right now about plagiarism and like what happens when we are all writing on the internet and people are borrowing from other people, because that's what's inevitably going to happen on something like Substack, where it's like a big spider web of words, right? And everybody's just kind of building off each other's ideas. And if you're not really careful, that can happen. And so where I'm at right now is that I do have concerns about various things as they come up, and I try to kind of enter those conversations as thoughtfully as I can with my own take on them whenever I feel like I have something to say. And if not, I try to stay out of it.
How about you, Rebecca?
My view is that each platform has its own issues. There are, kind of problematic groups and people on all the platforms, including, anyone you can think of. So I try to just be a responsible person on that platform myself. Having said that, Twitter is a cesspool that has surprised me how strange it's become, and how kind of the Wild West of content. I want to say one quick thing about being on here, what Lindsey said about, being on more or less. The most important thing, I think, is to be authentic to what is your strong suit. So I can't write newsletters every week, every month, every 2 months. I can't even do it. So newsletters are not my thing. I have a Substack. I send it out when the urge is like really strong. But for me, it's short sentences that feel right. So, and I'm in awe of people that write newsletters often, like how you put all that time and effort into, and so go with what kind of feels right for you.
And I think this too, this idea about like frequency and everything, it kind of ties into a question that Morgan has asked, but that's been a common question in the chat. If you put so much effort into your Substack writing, where and when do you find time to work on your books, your essays, your stories? And my response is I make everything do double duty. The content that I write on Substack either needs to be fun to write, or it's testing an idea for a paid essay or for book content. My first serious foray into social media was a blog back in the days when we had Blogspot and blog carnivals and blog tours. If you're as old as me, you probably remember these things. And it was the first time in my life that I had an audience to show up for. I was writing 5 days a week, and if I missed a day, people would email me and ask if I was sick. My audience wasn't huge, but what it did for me was got me into, I'm writing every day. I have a reason to write. I have people who are listening to what I write and interacting with it, which motivates me to then write more. And eventually I took all of that material and turned it into a book. And I did it again with 7 drafts. A lot of 7 drafts came out of material I wrote for the Brevity blog, for which I write for free. Brevity blog doesn't pay. But that content is doing double duty. I'm testing out my ideas. How does this resonate with the audience? I have learned the audience does not like it when I write about AI. They yell at me and send me angry emails, but at least I stirred them up. So there might be something in there that triggers a more powerful essay or a more powerful engagement with the audience.
Well, I guess on the heels of that, Lindsey, how does Substack fuel your business? Is it effective at driving people to other offerings, or is it an income source on its own? Like, how does that fit in your?
Yeah, It's not an income source on its own for me, because that hasn't been my goal. And I think when I do the webinar in a few weeks, I think the number one thing that we need to start with in the conversation is, what is your goal? Because I actually think there are 5 or 10 different really good reasons you could be on Substack, and then the way you approach the platform is going to be completely different based on what that ultimate goal is. So for me, I use Substack as kind of like a container for any overflow ideas I have, and I use it as a way to work out things I'm thinking about. And it's a lot chattier in tone than anything I would submit to. Like, I feel like I'm talking directly to my writer, and I'm probably a little like funnier and more casual than I would be if I were writing, an article or something for a lit mag or something. So it's even if I were, so a lot of people have asked, can you repurpose that work for a lit magazine or something like that to publish? You cannot, but you can write the same ideas a million different ways. And, like Allison was saying, that's what we all do. We have our preoccupations that we care about. And for me, it's kind of like a playground to just figure out, what am I into? What do I care about? What do people respond to? And then I take ideas from that and I go write, a chapter of a book that I'm actually hoping to publish. So it's very separate in my mind, and it doesn't, like, there's not a lot of crossover. I have a business locally that offers writing classes and stuff like that. I would not say that the Substack really has much to do with that, because it's local. But I do find that, like, the writers in my local area, when they find out that I have a Substack, they immediately want to get on there and kind of know what I'm about. And then that helps them figure out if they want to get engaged further. So for me, again, it's just a place where it's like, if you want to know what I'm about, it's all in one place. You can go here, you can go back months and months and figure out what I was about in 2021, and it's going to be different, right? So there's a lot there. And I think that gives people time to just kind of like explore if they want to. And if not, that's fine too.
Rebecca, how do you see your Substack growing? What are your goals for using the platform?
That's a great question. I do a lot of my life and writing career as kind of like, let's see how it all goes. So, but I've loved seeing more people subscribe. The more people subscribe to my newsletter, it gives me a little bit of incentive, or, like maybe guilt, to create more substantive or newsletters when I do give them out. And then this is all connecting to people. I'm writing a book. I have a book coming out in March, which is My Heart and Soul, was my memoir that I turned into a novel, talking about my childhood and struggling with my body and with being an immigrant. And for me, it's everything. And so all of this is so I can connect to people, so that when it comes out, I can tell them, please, buy this, because I think you're going to love it. And then I'm working on my second book. That's one of the reasons I don't feel like I can give too much of my writing out. I'm trying to finish a second book that's something I love.
We've got some great questions in the chat, and Sharla and I are going to take turns pulling some questions out of the chat. We've had a question that's been asked by a number of people, most recently by Nancy. If you publish an excerpt online or your text on your website, on your Substack, whatever, is that still considered published by most lit journals when submitting an essay?
Yes.
Yes. And not just lit journals, if you like to write for big publications, commercial, national publications, which that's what I do. I write essays for big pubs. They're very strict about that, and absolutely consider it published if you do it on Substack.
Right. Deborah asks, I'd love to know how to get the best use out of paid subscriptions, how to build community with them. Do you have any suggestions for that, Lindsey?
I think, if you do paid subscribers, and again, I'm really new to that part of it, but you need to have enough material, I think, to like sustain them for a pretty, you need to know in your mind what you're going to do to sustain those people and make them feel like they're paying for, the year or whatever. And so I guess it's fun to have paid subscribers, because it's really fun to see, like, who are your fans? Like, who are the people who are willing to pay that? And then you can have conversations with them. And I do think you can engage with them in kind of a different way. And I will say too, I think you should pay it forward. Like when I first got on Substack, I figured out like what's my Substack budget. And then I figured out the, 10 Substacks that I was going to pay for, and I pay for them. And some of them I don't read as often as I wish I did, but I will pay for them because those are people whose work I just admire so much. Like Catherine May is one of my people. I will pay for her newsletter no matter where she goes, just because I love her. And so if you want people paying for you, I think you need to be paying for people. You need to be recommending people, and you can just quickly recommend people, or you can write like a paragraph about why you recommend them. And I try to get in there every so often and write those little paragraphs that say, here's why I'm recommending this person. And all that stuff goes a really long way. And I'll say this in the webinar, but I've had some really significant connections that I've made that way that have been wonderful to me sort of like years down the road. So you never know what could happen.
But Allison, do you have a question?
A couple of people have asked, how does Substack compare to Medium? I personally find that anytime I attempt to go read something on Medium, I am hit with a paywall immediately, and there is no clear way to even pay to get around the paywall. So I just back off and I don't bother clicking anything on Medium ever. They've also been really inconsistent over the past 10 years and changed their business model 3 or 4 times. I don't see Medium as being a useful place to build an audience because they seem really concerned with putting up walls between the audience. And my whole point is discoverability. Lindsey or Rebecca, do you have any experience with Medium?
I would say the same thing. I don't know how you would get discovered on Medium, whereas that notes channel is the way to get discovered on Substack.
I also heard that there's issues with you not really owning your own material on Medium.
I have heard
And
that.
so I would say that's probably true with any place that you're posting things for free. You don't really own that place, Facebook, Substack, other places. So just be aware that you're part of their system. You're building them traffic. You're giving them attention too. So just to be aware, like that is part of the contract that you're getting into.
And somebody also mentioned Patreon. Patreon is much more valuable for artists who are creating a visual or audible product. The vast majority of us, we are better off spending our time developing our work and building our audience rather than attempting to use this as a money-making thing. Most of us, we're just not generating the kind of content that people want to pay for. Somebody asked earlier in the chat, they were saying that some of them, the men they've interacted with are expecting that they're going to do subscriptions and get paid. And I said, well, what are they going to post? Are they in the self-help space? Are they in the business space? Are they in the financial advice space? Because those are things that people are willing to pay for. And the question asker said, no, they're releasing, parts of their as yet unpublished novels. And I'm like, well, I say this with love in my heart, but they're delusional. There are not a significant number of people who want to pay for your unpublished work. That said, it is a place where you can try out ideas, and then to avoid the element of, oh, it's already been published, you revise it. Because by the time you get ready to turn those ideas into a book, time has passed. And the number one thing that makes us better writers is time. For our panelists, from Rachel, should we use an author name or a Substack title as the URL or the title of our Substack?
I would say author name because that's not going to change, right? And you could change your mind about your title. I rebranded a little bit about 4 months ago and thought about changing my title because it's kind of vague and people don't really understand it. But I decided to stick with it. But you can noodle around with that, and if your title's in your URL, you can't change it.
And I never thought about it. So my Substack from the beginning was called Rebecca Substack. It's still called Rebecca Substack. And I'm terrible with titles, like terrible, terrible. So I lean into just my name.
I like it.
Thank you.
We have a question from Karen. Hello from Los Angeles. I've been reading subscribers. I worry about keeping up content for my subscribers. How often do you have to post for paid subscribers? Like, how does that work out?
At least I would say once a week for paid subscribers. Unless you're kind of like what I did was like, package a lot of material all at once, and it was a 10-day thing that came out every day with videos and stuff. And so you could do it something like that. Or if you're just posting essays, there's kind of usually the conversation is it's really not helpful to post more than once a week, because after that, people start to sort of get annoyed that you're showing up in their inbox so often. So I think once a week is kind of the ideal rhythm if you can get there.
That makes sense.
And Rebecca, how often are you posting versus interacting on notes and restacking?
That's a great question. I don't write Substack that often, and my Substack's different than a lot of people's I've noticed. I'm like more of a newsletter, like news. Here's my news. So I don't write essays. All my creative writing kind of goes to my book or essays that I publish. But I do try to post something in notes every day or every other day. And it's for me, it's always like, oh, and I love what Allison said about testing out your ideas. I recently did something about how I went for a walk and then I saw myself in a shop window, and it was so hurtful, and it like gutted me that that's what I look like and my body looks like, and I pushed myself to like rejigger the image in my mind, and I just one, two sentences, and people really resonated with that on different social medias, and so that's going to be an essay. So I write thoughts that I have that are genuine, honest, and authentic to me.
That's really smart.
Anna asks, is the community on Substack composed of writers, readers, librarians, all of the above? Who's on Substack, and how do you find your community in there?
So it's a lot of writers. And the thing that annoys me the most about Notes is it became a place where all the writers are writing about writing instead of writing. That drives me crazy. Like, I want to read good writing. I don't want to read you talking about how you wish you were writing good writing, but you're not writing. It can get kind of just because we all feel that way. And I know we all identify with it, but when that's all there is, it can be really difficult. So you curate your feed. So it's just like anything else with, Twitter or whatever, where you follow the people whose notes you want to read. And you can follow certain categories, like there's literature, culture, parenting, there's all sorts of stuff. And it eventually starts to just show you, what you're interested in. And I feel like another big distinction is if you're reading Substack, and we'll talk about this in the webinar. If you're reading Substack on your email versus in the app, it's a really different experience. So if you're reading it in the app, you're getting sort of like a curated feed, right? Whereas if you're reading it in your email, you're getting these distinct emails that have nothing to do with one another. It's just a really different thing. So if you want to engage with it more like social media, you need the app, and a lot of people don't know that.
Interesting. I wonder if they're going to try to figure out how to get more people on the app. That seems like
Yeah.
that's probably they're probably trying to think about how to do that. Maria says, "Hi from Chicago. I love when people say where they're from. I have had an email newsletter for years and want to change providers, seen more and more Substacks, and trying to determine if this is the way I should go. So big questions are: can I move my list? I believe that's a yes, right? Easily to move your list. Can I host ads?
As of yesterday, Substack announced that it came out that they are moving toward ads. So that's a new thing. We don't know how that's going to work yet.
Is there restrictions
Wow.
on images?
I don't think so.
Is it
But I
easy
don't
to learn?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really intuitive, again, depending on kind of what level you want to use it at. And I'll give these names later too. Actually, I'll just type them in the chat. But there are some people who their whole Substack is about how to figure out Substack. Sarah Fay is probably the most famous one. It's Substack Writers at Work. And then Clear Venus has one. But if you want to just go play around on their Substacks, they've got 1 billion tips about how everything works and, how to get engagement and all that stuff.
I love that. We have a great question from Lucy. And I also want to shout out to Lucy. Lucy Frost is one of our longtime Writers Bridge community members. She's been here since the very first episode. And one of the things that Lucy came up with a couple of years ago was that she posts a couple of times a week to her Instagram account, and I believe also to TikTok, face to camera, on the topic of how the hell did I not know that? It's stuff like, how do they get the lines on the football field that magically appear on TV? Why is it this word and not that word? Why is it hunger pangs and not hunger pains? And Lucy's consistently showing up has now got her, I think, over 30 or 40,000 followers now, and she got a book deal. And the book is How the Hell Did I Not Know That? And she got all of this by, as a lady of a certain age, as many of us are, who is not shaking her tail and twerking, but showing up consistently to talk about something that she cares about and that she thinks readers are going to be interested in. So shout out to Lucy and congratulations on your book. And Lucy wants to know, are we able to get any data from our subscribers beyond just their names? Like, does Substack collect locations or how often they click on things or anything like that, like a newsletter platform would?
Rebecca, you may know some about this too. I don't go that deep. Again, I I don't have like a marketing bone in my body, and woe is me for that, because that's not a good thing. But what I see about my subscribers is their name, their email, and then their engagement. There's this kind of cool thing where they do stars. So like if they've read every post I've ever written, they have 5 stars by their name. And if they engage a little bit, they have 0 stars or 1 star. And then if they just haven't opened it in a long time, they have 0 stars. That's about the extent of what I know about my people. But Rebecca, you may there's probably more. It's not like Instagram though, where it's like men and women and every location and all. It's not that detailed.
From what I can tell in my tiny bit of research today on this topic is that they do have algorithm information, stat information that the others don't have, but you got to kind of dig deep into it. I'll just put a couple of links in there about that in the chat, or a link that I found interesting. What I like about it, it shows you where people are coming from generally. So are they seeing it on Substack that they're finding you? Is it from your newsletter? Is it from Facebook? Is it from, I like to see the percentages of that. Individually, can I see if, Rachel found me exactly from this? I don't know, but to tell you the truth, I think there's more information on there. They want to be known for providing more information than the other social media. And I don't know if they do, but that's kind of where they're going.
Yeah, so we talked, I know I mentioned before, like who owns your stuff, but I do know that some people use Substack to link back to their website. So people see something in Substack and then they'll go read it further on their website. So that it's like a way of channeling people into to a place that they do own the materials. So Anna asks, how does Substack interact with authors' websites, social media platforms, and newsletters and blogs? Does it have a clear interface, or are you just embedding links if you want people to go other places?
Yeah, all I have is like an embed on my writer's website that just says, here's my Substack, here's where to go. And if I post on Substack, I'll post, I just put a new post up on Substack. I'll say that on Instagram. But it's not as, easily intuitive where it's all working together and I just hit one button. But I don't mind that. Again, I was kind of like trying to get out of that ecosystem a little bit. So for me, that feels better. But that may not be the case for, if you have a huge following on Instagram, stick with Instagram. That's what I would say. I think for me, I needed something different.
I totally agree. Yeah, there's not a way to connect them very easily. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about what we mentioned earlier. Substack, who's on it, and the numbers. Just to give you a little bit of idea, Instagram and Facebook have hundreds of millions of daily users, right? Hundreds, billions, I think, Facebook. But this is the stats for Substack. It has around 20 million monthly active users, 50 million unique visitors a month. It's not as much as the other ones. And what's happened is you don't have the international elements of the Meta and the other ones on Substack. You have a much smaller, so you're going to find political stuff, but it's going to be very curated. At the top, I think, right, Lindsey, you can find different areas of Substacks that would be more interesting to you. And I think those ecosystems are much more than just writers, so you could find your place.
So in just a moment, we're going to ask each of you for your top tip of something that our audience can do today to feel great about Substack or succeed on Substack or discover that Substack may not even be for them. But I do want to let you all know that please feel free to share the replay with your writer friends. This will show up on YouTube in about 2 or 3 days. And we encourage you to subscribe to us on YouTube, where we are The Writer's Bridge. We also invite you to join us next episode in September. It is summer vacation and I will have terrible internet and then I will be on a boat. So we are taking August off and we'll be back in September. We've got an amazing guest, a PR professional who specializes in working with women, BIPOC, and queer authors. And coming up in October, we've got Elliot Kaplan, a former head writer for The Daily Show and for Mystery Science Theater 3000, who will tell us all about writing humor and writing for TV. We definitely want to see some of you at Lindsey's upcoming webinar on Substack, which will be writingcraft.com is the Craft Talks webinar website. I hope I'll see some of you at my synopsis webinar, and some of you will see Rebecca and I in Tuscany. Hey, Lindsey, what is your top tip for our audience?
I think Catherine Palmer just said it right as I was about to, but I think find a writer that you love on Substack, follow them and engage with them and leave comments and see how what they're doing works. But genuinely engage with people. I think for me, it's like so fun that some of my iconic, writers that I just love are on Substack and will respond to my comments. Like Catherine Newman, I love her so much. She's another one that I'm just like ride or die for, but she responds to my comments every time. And I'm like, I'm just chatting with Catherine Newman. So go do that. I think that's a really fun, entry thing. And I just want to say one more quick thing before we get off. I think everybody's worried about like where you're putting all your different writing. And I just want to say, I feel very strongly that writing begets more writing. And if you are just doing a ton of it, it will continue to come. Like the well will not run dry. And if you are putting a lot of thought and work into your writing, it actually multiplies, I think. I know it sounds kind of corny, but like I don't ever feel like I'm going to just run out of stuff. I actually feel the opposite, which is that like, oh, I have all these conversations I want to engage in. And if I want to turn around and write something for a lit mag, I'll write it with a completely different tone and different language. And I don't feel like I've wasted it. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think that's like not the right concern to have going in. There are some real concerns that you should have, but I think that's not one of them.
There's more where that came from.
That's right.
Yeah. Rebecca, what's your top tip for our audience?
I'm going to talk to people who are like hesitant or who don't really understand Substack. I'm going to say, make an account and treat it like you would a good friend that you want to say one quick thing to every day, and then you start to like comment and like other people's that feels authentic to you. And then slowly it grows. I think it's very intimidating to think of all the things that Substack does. So treat notes like you would, and like we used to with Twitter.
I love that. Sharla, what's your top tip?
I mean, besides, my tip to join us on Craft Talks for Lindsey's webinar on using Substack, especially if you're new to building platform or you've considered it and not sure if you want to do it still, or you want to know how to reach your audience or how to like cinch that essay format. But I guess personally for myself, I would say you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You know, be authentic to what you like, what you're curious about, what fuels your writing life. And I'm personally not on Substack, but I read a few of them. I do subscribe to a few of them. But it doesn't make sense for me personally to shoehorn myself on there because it's not how I like to connect with people. And so I'm going to look at ways that I enjoy and it feels authentic to myself and how I find people. And so I think that's fine too. If you're just like, you know what, this isn't for me, I think that's perfectly viable.
Yeah, I agree with all of the above. Writing begets writing, community begets more community. More than anything, pick the place you like to show up and show up there regularly, consistently, and honestly. And regardless of platform, that's really what's going to build your writing community, your reading community, and your literary citizenship. Thank you all so much for joining us here today at the Writer's Bridge, and we invite you to unmute yourselves for a joyful goodbye. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are awesome.
This was great.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh my God.